I think we should assume that all technology gets adopted rather slowly or slower than what you should assume will actually happen and work backwards from that. And if you actually have something that goes quickly, then that's icing on the cake. But I think the assumption, I think we think about these things completely backwards and are sort of taught completely backwards that we need to sort of rush to the end of getting a lot of people adopted at something. And this is, part of the reason is the way that sort of financial investments actually make, right? Like people are investing in something and they want to make sure that they get a return on that money, and they're investing in, whether it's a new idea or whatever, and they want to get a return on that money. And they want to rush that, and the better off that they get this money back, the better, or the quicker they get this money back, the better off it is for them. And that is absolutely beautiful, right? That sort of the way that the capitalist market works is absolutely beautiful in a lot of different ways, but it's not very good with sort of recognizing that sometimes things just take a long time to adopt, and maybe, maybe they might not be adopted at all. I don't know, but they do take a long time to adopt, and if you change and you come back from a different perspective and you say, hey, wait a minute, what if the natural tendency is that things just take a long time to adopt? And I work backwards from that and I think about how can I minimize my losses? How can I make sure that I'm going to be perfectly fine if I pursue something despite it taking a long time, or despite it not working out, and sort of work backwards from that. That's a different way to think about the same problem, rather than thinking about creating a new idea that will be adopted really quickly and sort of working and how you can get that adopted quickly. You think about, okay, let's think of what the norm is. Let's think about this, right? And there's all sorts of research on this, or behavioral stuff, that things just take a long time. If you look at the numbers of how long things actually take in real life, it's often much further than, or much longer than what you believe it will be in your head. And there's lots of reasons for this. You don't really understand what the process is. That there might be sort of system problems that you have to look at. There's just lots of stuff. If you work backwards from that order, instead of saying, hey, I am faulty because I can't get this thing going quickly, I am faulty because I'm not getting a return on this. Instead, say, hey, I know that this is going to take a long time. And I know that this is getting people to adopt something is painful. They don't like to, they don't get it, lots of different things. And what if I sort of changed this around and thought about how can I count my losses? Or how can I make sure that if all hell breaks loose, nothing happens, the default is nothing happens, right? Nobody adopts anything and nobody does anything, then the default is sitting there and saying, hey, if that's the case, why don't I plan around that? If that's the more realistic case, that what I'm going to do is a failure. What I'm going to do is going to have nobody adopting it. And if that's the case, why don't I plan around and think about how can I minimize this, and think about how can I live my life in such a way, yeah, I might have some painful feelings from sort of failing at something, but it's not going to wreck my entire life. And that's kind of what I'm doing with the reciprocity project, is I've realized that, man, it is hard to get people to buy into the platform, to think about the platform, not only just to go on to just to go, to buy credits, to get people to actually use this damn thing that I've been building. But it's this idea of, just getting people to even look at it. It is unbelievably hard. I teach in front of various different classrooms, and I look around, and at any given time, there's only about 10% of the classroom that is actually paying attention or that is astute. And even those, that 10%, right? So you have a classroom of 100, that's 10 people that are paying attention. Only like two of those people will realistically actually do something. Maybe one person will actually realistically do something that that you've sort of connected with, and not only connected with, because lots of people you connect with, but they just simply won't do anything, right? So then it's like getting to that point of getting people to actually do something in response to what you're actually doing. You're looking at fractions of a percent. And so if that's the case, right, if that is the case, that it's, fractions of a percent at any given time that people are actually going to respond to anything that you're talking about, let's tell that story. Let's go through and realize that it's a slow process. I'm going to do everything in my possibility, in my sort of that I can do, um, but I'm also not going to break the bank and go bankrupt because of this sort of silly thing that's a slow process. It's really different, and it's a far different way than how we're taught, how we're thinking about. And the reason is that you do have these investors, but as well as people take far too large of risks. They quit their job and they do something that is 100% this particular thing, or they pursue this particular project that's 100%, rather than saying, let's just keep going with this, incrementally keep growing, find little ways to do it, find little, all possible ways to actually do this thing and to build it, find cheap ways, inexpensive ways, and just keep building, keep trying, keep going, one more day, one more step, and if you have that mindset, it's far different than the sort of panic that you feel when nothing works out. And I've learned that through when I did my PhD. And man, you when you do something like that, you put so much weight on it. When things don't work out, it crushes you. Right, it absolutely crushes you. Instead of just saying, basically, screw you, I'm going to do my thing, you are sitting there just devastated, and you're just, you have a far different perception on the world. And so what I'm doing is getting you to think about it. Like, how can you do this gradually, thinking about things in terms of let's just have fun. And we're at a moment in time that we have tools that allow us to do this, and you just have to simply get up and actually do it, and take those steps. Look to see and how things will actually happen, and realistically think about what's actually going to happen, and then work backwards from there. I'm very big on look at the reality, look at the world, look at the numbers, and you'll have a far different story when you actually do that than thinking about I'm going to be the exception to the rule. All right, take care and have a wonderful day.